What up, sixth graders? Okay, so today our video is going to be about least common multiple, and this video is it's just for this person that came into tutoring and is like, Hernandez, where's your videos? So this video is for you. You know who you are, my little sixth grader that came in and asked for the videos. So today's topic that we learned in class was the least common multiple, okay, which is different from the greatest common factor, which you learned last week. So least common multiple is pretty much just a gist, a short summary is what multiples or what numbers do two or more numbers share, and they have to be the smallest number, okay, the smallest number. It makes sense if we go over an example, okay, so let's look for the least common multiple between 6 and 8, okay. When we're talking about multiples, we're talking about multiplication. There's a difference between greatest common factor and least common multiple. For least common multiple, you're talking about multiplication. But for greatest common factor, you're talking about division. Okay, factors. Remember, factors are numbers that could go evenly into the number that we're talking about. Multiple is different. It's multiplication. So let's go over the multiples of 6 and 8. Okay, so I taught you the listing method first. So the multiples of 6 are 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30, and of course you could go on, keep on going. 6 times 6 is 36, but I told you today in class that I like stopping in the 5th multiple just because you could see the numbers that they share in common pretty early on, okay? Let's look at the multiples of 8. So the multiples of 8 is 8 times 1 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 3 is 24, 8 times 4 is 32, and then 8 times 5 is 40, okay? You could keep on going, like I said, then it will be 48, okay? Now what you need to look for now is, which is the number that they share in common? But it has to be the smallest number that they share in common. In this case, the multiple that they share in common is, you guessed it, 24. So that means the least common multiple, write in a sentence, the least common multiple is 24. Okay, that's how you figure out the least common multiple. And then you're going to find out that we're going to use the least common multiple when we're adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. So this topic is very important. Not only that, in the future lessons, we're going to go over word problems that deal with least common multiple. Let's do another one. 12 and 30. 12 and 30. Okay, pretty easy. You grab the multiples of both numbers. So the multiples of 12 are 12 times 1 is 12, 12 times 2 is 24, 12 times 3 is 36, 12 times 4 is 48, 12 times 5 is 60. So those are the multiples of 12. They could go on forever. The multiples of 30 are 30, 60, 90, 120, and 150. Okay? Now you stop and check. Do they share anything in common? It has to be the smallest one. Well, in this case, they share a 60. So that means that the least common multiple is 60. And you're done. You write in a sentence. The least common multiple is 60. Now, what would happen? I'm going to make this up. This is not true. I'm going to make this up. What happens if this one was 120? Not true. This is actually true. Never mind. 12 times 10 will give you that 120. Okay? So never mind. I'm not making this up. So let's say that you go all the way to the 10. 12 times 10 is 120. But you're like, oh look, Hernandez, they share the 120 together. You're right. They share those multiples together. But you want to look for the smallest one, which is the smallest number that they share in common, the smallest multiple, which will be 60. Okay, so that's the least common multiple. Now, this is pretty easy. This is a listing method. There's another way you could solve this problem, and yes, you guessed it. The upside down cake method or the ladder method, whatever you want to call it. You could look for the least common multiple between them. Okay, let's go over the same examples we just went through right now, but using this method. So let's look at 6 and 8. The way you do this is exactly the same way how you find out the greatest common factor. Okay, one number goes into 6 and 8. 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Ask yourself again, what number goes into 3 and 4? Well, it's 1. So once you hit 1, you're done. In this case, the GCF will be 2. But I don't care about GCF. Okay, I want the least common multiple. This is how you figure out the least common multiple. We already agreed that the least common multiple in this problem will be 24. This is how you figure it out. You only do this, look. You grab the greatest common factor, and you grab these last 2 factors at the bottom, and what you're going to do is, you're going to multiply. So 2 times 3 times 4. Okay? 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 4 is 24. Look at that. You still get the least common multiple by doing this method. And if you ever forget, do you notice how I kind of drew like an L? L for least common multiple. And you're done. That's another way you could figure this out. Let's do another one. Let's do the 12 and 20 again. 12 and 30. We did this one already. Okay, if you want to use the ladder method, okay, first of all, you ask yourself, what number goes into 12 and 30? I don't know my times table, so I'm going to go easy. They're both even, so I'm going to use 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Is there another number that could go into 6 and 15? Yeah, it's 3. Okay, 6 divided by 3 is 2. 15 divided by 3 is 5. The GCF, if I would ask you what's the GCF, hopefully you will say, oh, 2 times 3, 6. The GCF will be 6, which is great, but I don't want GCF. Or I can ask you another question. How do you express this? Let's say if there was a sum here, a summation, how would you express it using distributive property? Then you would be like, oh yeah, that's easy. The GCF is 6, 2 plus 5. And there it is. But in this problem, I want LCM. That means I need to draw my L. Here it is. Boom. L for LCM. And what I have to do is multiply all these 4 numbers. Don't ask. That's what a lot of students like doing. You multiply. Somebody in one of my periods said this, like, Hernandez, this is easy. You just multiply 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Then you multiply 2 times 5, which is 10. And then you multiply these 2 together at the end. 6 times 10 is 60, which is what we got on the previous problem. So either way, you still get the right answer. Or you could do 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 24. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 5 is 60. You get the same thing. Let's do 2 more. I'm telling you, the ladder method helps you with GCF, greatest common factor. It also helps you with distributive property and the least common multiple. Let's do 24 and 36. Okay. 4. Let me choose 4. 24 divided by 4 is 6. 36 divided by 4 is 9. Oh, I can still pull out another number or factor out another number. 6 and 9, 3. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. If I would ask you for the GCF, the answer will be 4 times 3, which is 12. If I would ask you to express this sum using distributive property, it would be 12, which is the GCF, 2 plus 3. Great. But I'm not asking you for that. I'm asking you for the least common multiple. Do you see I can ask you so many questions just with one problem? Least common multiple. Okay, multiple means multiply, so I have to multiply. Oh, and it's the letter L. So 4 times 3 gives me 12. 2 times 3 gives me 6. Then 12 times 6 is 72. So my least common multiple, I'm going to be lazy. Don't be lazy in class. You write down least common multiple. In this case will be 72. And you're done. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you could also get the right answer by listing the multiples. But this is where like it might get complicated. Okay, 24 times 1 is 24. 24 times 2 is 48. 24 times 3, oh, I don't know. Let me see, you're going to have to multiply the long way. So this method helps you avoid all of that mess. Let's do one more. What would happen if you get 3 and 4? Well, Hernandez, I cannot pull anything out, or I cannot factor anything out. It will just be 1. So when you cannot factor anything out, obviously the greatest common factor will be 1. Okay, but in terms of least common multiple, you guessed it, multiples multiply. We're not going to be able to form an L because we don't have any factors down here. So the only thing you do is just multiply these 3 numbers. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 4 is 12. So the LCM in this case will be 12. Okay? So that's how you figure out the least common multiple between numbers, between 2 whole numbers, which was our essential question for today. Okay, you could use the listing method. You will always get the right answer with the listing method. Just be careful with your multiplication. And then you could also use the ladder method. And you just saw right now in this video, on this method, that the ladder method, you could find out the GCF. You could use distributive property for summation and the least common multiple. Okay, and that's it for today's video.